Public Safety Committee, the Committee on Judiciary, and I'm pretty proud of where we are today with regard to public safety relative to where we were in 2005. Homicides are way down, violent crime has fallen. Not to say that where we are in crime is where we ought to be. If the homicide rate in the district were the same as New York City, we'd have about half as many murders as we have in the District of Columbia. So there is progress to be made. I'm also pleased that the council is, I shouldn't say the council, the government is beginning to rebuild its financial strength. I was very, very disturbed with what happened over the previous 4 or 5 years, not with the recession, although that was for sure a problem, but the fact that we were not very smart about how we were spending our money while we were spending down our fund balance and really making it increasingly difficult for this government to survive financially. So I'm pleased that that has changed. Some of the issues that are important to me, well, first of all, this whole issue of ethics. As I have said over and over again, this is an issue that I think often we let elected officials off the hook by saying, well, we'll just pass a law and everybody will be ethical. Well, you know, the 2 guys who resigned from the council this year resigned because they broke laws. We already had a pretty clear policy in place. What is at issue is the moral fiber of those people who are holding office. And I think we need to look at how we ensure that better people are elected to office. We, the voters, have some responsibility in this. I, as the chairman of the council, am looking and will continue to look at ways that either personally, leading by example, or through our rules and our complex processes, try to ensure greater transparency and accountability in what the council is doing. For example, and I want to go back to, you know, I'm one of those who does not believe that there are broad, dramatic strokes that will solve this problem. But as an example, the first meeting that I chaired when I was appointed chairman back in June, there was a bill that came up that was very controversial. The hearing was on Thursday, the committee markup was on Friday, and they wanted it marked up, voted on an emergency basis on Tuesday. Now, in my view, that's really kind of thumbing one's nose at the community. We don't really care what you say on Thursday, because in order for the markup to be on Friday, the committee draft had to have been circulated on Thursday before the hearing. And I said, no, the rules had been violated on that. There hadn't been adequate notice, and I put it off for 2 weeks. And you know, the controversy was resolved. It was worked out. And the notice to council members is equally important to the community. And in order for us to do our job right, we have to hear from the community where there are controversial issues. We have to provide that opportunity so that we can hear the pros and cons and weigh them fairly. I'm pretty close to my 5 minutes. Nobody's fallen off their seat in the seat. I appreciate that very much. I did not look for this way to ascend to the chairmanship of the council. However, being in this position, I am enthusiastic about continuing as chair of the council, taking my experience and my leadership skills to the council to try to regain the trust that the council needs to have from the public, and to do my part to improve the citizens' faith in our government. Thank you very much.
Okay, just so everybody can hear, I think you share with Mayor Gray the distinction of being the only active member of the elected officials of DC. You serve both as a member of the council and as council chair. What I'd like to ask you to do is to describe, as you see it, the role of the council chair versus that of the mayor in forging consensus on critical issues within the council and, more importantly, in the community as a whole.
Well, the chairman of the council is more directly involved in the council, obviously, than the mayor. And as an independent branch, I would want the council to be developing its positions rather than having the mayor controlling the council, if you will. The chairman of the council is one of 13 when we are fully fully staffed. I have one vote equal to every other member. At the same time, the chair is in a position to try to build consensus. The chair is in a position to listen to the different members. You know, if the chair does it right and has trust is really critical in all of this, the trust of his or her colleagues, then there will be a certain amount of, on the part of the members, deference to the chair as he or she is trying to find a solution. The chair's role is critical, I think, in trying to find consensus and looking at whether a compromise is reasonable and ought to be found, or whether principle is what's most important and ought to be stood by. The chair has a critical role, in my view, is the one to do that, not the mayor.
According to Isabel Sawhill of Brookings, as reported by Robert Samuelson in an op-ed in today's Post, gaps have widened between children of poor and well-to-do families on school test scores, on college attendance, and even on family formation. If the gap is growing, despite recent reform efforts, what are the implications for goal setting in the district schools?
I did not read the column today. I happen to think that...
I don't recommend the article, quite frankly, but this, not being a great fan of Robert Samuelson, but I noticed this reference to Isabel Sawhill and this particular statement. I thought it was particularly timely and appropriate for us to contemplate. So.
You'll add a minute to my time. I'm trying to do 4 minutes to answer. Let me see, where was I on this? My sense of it is that, first of all, the gap is growing because of national policies, and I find that deeply disturbing. And there's little that we as a local government can do to reverse those major trends, those mega trends, if you will, nationally. You mentioned opportunity in your question, and we do have the opportunity to try to effect some change through our public school system. I am very disappointed with where we are in public education. And actually this kind of goes back to what I said earlier about, you know, I'm not one known for drama, I'm known for hard work. I think we have to, it takes time to build ourselves to where we want to be. And I think with our schools, we thought, well, we just, you know, destroy the structure and come up with a new structure and that will improve our schools. This summer, the test results were announced. And the spin was amazing. You know, the DCPS school test scores increased faster than the charter test scores. In fact, the charter test scores slipped a little bit. But you know, the charters were at like 54% and the DCPS was at like 48%. Those are both failing. You know, where we should be is like 90%, not 50%. And we're on track to see if we can get to 75% in, I think it's 3 or 4 years. That is too slow. I'm impatient about that. Now, does that mean we should go in and fire everybody? No. In fact, I think that's part of the problem. The turnover in schools is about 20-25% teachers, year after year after year. Principals, 20-25% turnover in principals, year after year after year. You know, my daughter who's in DC public schools, I've learned that the value of the principal, and you want the principal to be there, and the value of the teachers, and the principal's the educational leader who's ensuring that there are good teachers in that school. You build a community in that school. You can't do that if you are constantly, you know, churning who the faculty is. Now, that's not to say we protect bad teachers. No, not that at all. But we have to look at how to build good schools, each school individually, and put additional resources into the schools that are failing. If our school system is testing at 48%, I'm talking about DCPS, and I can tell you there are a lot of schools like in Ward 3 that are doing very, very, very well, then that tells you that the bad schools are really bad to be pulling down the average like that. And we ought to be putting more resources into those bad schools to turn those kids around. One initiative that I've been pressing is truancy. You know, the school system until this year couldn't even tell you how many kids were truant. And when you look at an individual school like Annex Austria Senior High School, the truancy rate is like 60%. 60% of the kids who haven't dropped out are truant. And when we talk about truancy, we're talking about 10 days unexcused absence, 25 days unexcused absence. I mean, imagine that. How can you be successful in school if you're absent 25 days? And there's a reason for this, and it's not because the kid is thinking to himself, oh, I'm just going to be truant. I'm a good student, but I'm going to be truant. It could be because they're in the 8th grade, but they can't read at 4th grade level. Well, how did they get to the 8th grade? And the fact that they're truant is, to me, an identifier. I mean, it's actually kind of beautiful if you think about it, that kids can self-identify to us that they're failing. We haven't picked up on that, and we ought to, and I've been pushing for this government to respond differently to truancy, and to use that as a way of identifying kids at risk and getting the appropriate interventions to them so that they can succeed. And that is a way that we on the local level can affect and improve opportunity.
Okay, I'm going to let you off easy because in your opening remarks you addressed one of my 4 questions. So just one more.
Was that on taxes, by the way?
Now, it was on the role of the council vis-a-vis ethics reform, and I think you made clear what your position is on that. And this question is a little different. What's the proper role of the council in promoting